Disney's Hollywood Studios can be the best park day ever, unless you get stuck in lines, eat food that's not great, and miss out on important reservations. That's why we're here with the ultimate guide to Disney's Hollywood Studios for 2023, to make sure you know exactly how to make this park day one to remember for years to come. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Disney's Hollywood Studios is the last Ultimate Guide in our 2023 Ultimate Guide YouTube series, but it may just be the most important one. And that's because this park continues to get more and more popular as new lands, new rides, and restaurants continue to be added. So today we're going to give you the DL on what's new, what's best, and how to hack this park to make sure you can accomplish everything you want in a day, or maybe two. If you want this entire Hollywood Studios list in a printable PDF format, then ta-da! We already have this list all typed up and ready to send your way. Just drop us your email at disneyfoodblog.com/DHS2023 so we can forward this to your inbox right away. And don't forget to go and watch all of our other Ultimate Guides to the other 3 Disney World parks after this. Now, before we get into the details of this video, let me give you a quick rundown of all the different areas of the park, just so you can visualize each section as we talk about them. When you first enter the park, you'll be on Hollywood Boulevard, a street lined with gift shops leading you right up to the replica Grauman's Chinese Theater in the heart of Hollywood Studios. If you turn left before you reach the theater, you'll enter into Echo Lake, an easygoing older section of the park with multiple shows and more spacious walkways. If you turn right instead, after walking down the Hollywood Boulevard strip, you'll stroll right into another boulevard stretch, Sunset Boulevard, which is where you're going to find the park's main beacon, the Hollywood Tower Hotel. Commissary Lane is directly to the left of Grauman's Chinese Theater and really doesn't have a whole lot to offer aside from a couple of noteworthy restaurants and a Mickey and Minnie meet and greet location. Echo Lake and Commissary Lane both exit out into Grand Avenue, a place where you can grab a beer or laugh along with the Muppets, or both. Animation Courtyard is directly to the right of Grauman's Chinese Theater, and bless its heart, not a whole lot's going on in that particular area right now, but there are still a couple of hidden gems here that we'll talk about later on. And now for the busiest parts of the park, aka the 2 newest. Toy Story Land is just past Animation Courtyard and opened back in 2018, giving guests the chance to shrink down to the size of a toy and wander around Andy's backyard. And grand finale here, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is in the very back of the park and opened just a year later in 2019. Can you believe it's been 3 years already? Galaxy's Edge is set on the planet of Batuu and gives you the chance to try intergalactic cuisine, ride state-of-the-art attractions, and meet some of your favorite Jedis, or maybe even Sith Lords straight from the movie franchise. Got all that? I know, there's so much to explore, and there's about to be even more. So, as always, we're going to start with what's new. Hollywood Studios may not be opening any new lands this year, but the park still has new and returning aspects to look forward to in 2023. After-hours events returned to Hollywood Studios starting on January 4th. These separately ticketed events allow you to stay in the park for 3 hours after it closes, meaning you can stay on the streets of Hollywood Studios until 12:30 a.m. if you'd like. During the event, you'll be able to grab specialty treats and drinks, which come complimentary with your event ticket. And because the number of tickets sold for these events is limited, you can often find way lower wait times than usual for the rides and attractions. My experience with after-hours events is that they're totally dead. There's nobody there. It's almost creepy. So guests with an after-hours ticket can enter the park as early as 7 p.m., but the event doesn't technically start until 9:30 p.m., so take advantage of those extra hours and get the most bang for your buck. After-hours tickets range in price from $129 to $159 per person. Roundup Rodeo Barbecue is a new table service restaurant coming to Toy Story Land in the spring of 2023. Guests are going to dine among play sets of a western town and train station while rodeo festivities take place during your meal, and of course you will have already been shrunken down to the size of a toy. You can probably guess what's being served here, but just in case the name of the restaurant wasn't a big enough clue, barbecue fare is going to be on the menu, served family style. Platters will feature house-smoked meats, classic sides, and miniature sweet surprises. So what do you think? Will Woody's Barbecue joint be superior to Regal Eagle Smokehouse in Epcot? Cast your vote in the comments. And when this restaurant opens up, advanced dining reservations will be an absolute must, so don't forget to book your table 60 days out before your visit. One of the nighttime spectaculars in Hollywood Studios, Fantasmic, finally returned at the beginning of November in 2022. This show reopened with new characters, stunt performers, and animation, as well as new show sequences featuring Moana, Frozen 2, Mulan, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, and The Lion King. We got some tips for this one later on, so hang tight. Back on March 1st, 2022, Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser opened in Disney World. Now, Star Cruiser is a resort experience, like a hotel, but not a hotel, that offers a 2-day, 2-night itinerary, meaning guests arrive and depart in the same time block, similar to a cruise. In this immersive environment, you'll be able to experience a wide range of activities and dining experiences in a galaxy far, far away. Disney calls it something beyond storytelling. It's story living. Now, if you just have a regular Hollywood Studios park ticket, you won't be able to experience the Star Cruiser, but if you are staying on the Star Cruiser, you'll be able to make a planet-side excursion to Black Spire Outpost on Batuu. And this is done by way of a transport pod sent by Black Spire Outpost to the Star Cruiser. Transports run between Batuu and the Star Cruiser continuously during the excursion time for the 4 to 5 minute trip. Now, guests staying at the Star Cruiser get free Lightning Lane access to both Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. But, the experience of the Star Cruiser is going to cost you about $6,000, so yeah, Lightning Lanes should come complimentary with that cost, I would say. To learn more about Star Cruiser, check out our FAQ video on the channel covering everything you need to know before you book a stay here. And now for some not so fun news. Rock and Roller Coaster will be going through an extensive refurbishment very soon. Does this ride desperately need a refurb? Has it been closed non-stop recently? Yes. Are we sad to see it go dark for a few months? Also yes. The refurbishments will start on February 20th and last until the summer, with no exact return time set in stone just yet. And before you ask, there isn't any official word about the refurb leading to a re-theme yet, but we'll let you know if the status of that changes in the future. Next, as always, is our How to Do the Impossible section. These are the things you really want to have happen when you're in Hollywood Studios, but it's kind of hard to make them happen. So we've got the tips to make sure you can have the best day ever. Anything is possible with the DFB team on your side. Okay, maybe not everything, but we can at the very least give you some helpful tips. Here's how to cut down your waits without Genie Plus. Knowing how to cut down on wait times is more important to know in Hollywood Studios than any other Disney World park. And that's because Hollywood Studios has the rides that rack up the highest wait times, and the most of them. Let me give you a quick overview of the most popular rides and their average waits we saw in 2022, not including down or peak season, which skews those numbers a little bit, but not that much, unfortunately. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is usually about an hour. Slinky Dog Dash, 90 plus minutes, no kidding. Midway Mania, 45 to 60 minutes usually. Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is going to be about an hour. Tower of Terror is going to be 75 plus minutes. Rise of the Resistance will usually be a good 2-hour wait. Rock and Roller Coaster could be an hour and a half. So pretty wild stuff, and even the Tier B rides can get pretty lengthy. We've seen 30-minute waits just recently for Alien Swirling Saucer and Star Tours as well. I'll get into all that Lightning Lane talk later on, but for now, let's talk about how you can attempt to cut down on these waits without paying an extra dime. Use Single Rider when it's available. The Single Rider queue available at Rock and Roller Coaster and Smuggler's Run both have the opportunity for single riders to fill in open spaces left by odd-numbered parties. Single Rider is usually a much faster way to get through the queue, but you likely won't be able to ride with your group. If you don't mind breaking up your party to get through the line faster, you can spend more time riding together on the other rides instead. Also, take advantage of those resort benefits. All Disney World hotel guests will have the access to early theme park entry, which allows you to enter any of the parks on any day, 30 minutes before the parks open to everyone else. This can give you just enough time to jump in line for a popular ride before a rush of guests flood into the queues. And ride during show times. Fantasmic is going to be a big pull for a lot of guests, and thankfully, that's a big amphitheater that Hollywood Studios can fill. Though I highly recommend watching Fantasmic if you haven't gotten the chance to do so yet, you will see wait times go down during the show. Sometimes you'll have to choose, either shorter waits or a seat at Fantasmic, but on other days you might be able to pull off both. Here's how. Certain days throughout the year will have 2 Fantasmic showings, so if you go to one, you can use that other time frame to hit up the rides. My advice, plan to skip the first showing and attend the second. More guests tend to go to the first show of the night, so you might be able to find shorter ride wait times and less of a Fantasmic crowd if you go later on. Win-win. And here's how to breeze past the bag line when you're trying to get to the park early along with everyone else so that you can get in line for Rise of the Resistance without having to pay extra money. Then a second of time you can save will make a drastic difference between whether you can get ahead of huge groups and get in those ride lines. So make sure that when you're walking through the security bag check at the front of the park, you don't have anything in your bag that could potentially trigger the system and pull you into a more thorough bag check line. Here's a list of some of the items that tend to upset Disney's walk-through security system. Glasses cases, umbrellas, Disney pins, external chargers, any kind of metal containers, laptops, iPads, and techie devices. If you bring any of these items with you, that doesn't mean you're in trouble or anything. It just means Disney security is going to have to make sure there's nothing else that could be potentially triggering the system. So if you know you're bringing one or multiple of these items, hold them and walk through the security check holding them. That way, if the sensor does go off, security will know what caused it and send you on through without an extra bag check. Also, you could just not have a bag. If that's a possibility for you, it's going to make it much faster. All right, ready to put these strategies to the test? I'm about to give you my ultimate game plan using the tips I just talked about to hit up all the Hollywood Studios rides in one go without buying lightning lanes. Disclaimer, this isn't a foolproof plan. Bumps and circumstances could throw you off and still cause you to end up waiting longer for a ride than you would have liked, but it's a game plan we've used in the past and it's treated us very, very well. Step 1, head to Toy Story Land first to get in line for Slinky Dog Dash. Most guests will be aiming for Rise of the Resistance first thing in the morning. After Slinky, you can quickly hit up Midway Mania, wait on Alien Swirling Saucer. This one isn't a ride you necessarily need to prioritize. Step 2, backtrack to Sunset Boulevard to get in line for Tower of Terror. Many guests like to ride this one in the afternoon, so when it's a little darker out, so you may still be able to get ahead of the worst of the crowds. Step 3, Rock and Roller Coaster is next door neighbors to Tower of Terror, but at this point, crowding may start looking a bit heavier. If crowds are still okay, just go ahead and jump in line, but if they're looking kind of rough, check and see if a single rider option is available. Step 4, once you've made it to the afternoon, crowds are going to be wild. This is a good time to take a break, stop to eat, watch a show. This may also be a good time to hit up the B-tier rides, Star Tours and Alien Swirling Saucers, depending on what their wait times look like. You can always check on your My Disney Experience app virtual map for live updates. Step 5. Now, Runaway Railway is a little tricky since it's at the front of the park. You don't want to get in line for it first thing because that's where a lot of the first-time guests tend to stumble to. But the line for this one stays consistent throughout the day, sitting pretty much around that 50 to 60 minute wait all the time. But every now and then it'll dip down to 30 to 45 minutes and feel a little more reasonable. Check on your My Disney Experience app under the tip board to see what forecasted waits for the ride look like on the day of your visit. Then you can check back in on the waits around that time and try to make your way back to the Grauman's Chinese Theater during one of those random dips. Step 6. Notice how I haven't said much about the Galaxy's Edge rides yet. That's because guests will be flooding that area of the park first and foremost. You're totally allowed to still check out the area during the day, but you may be better off waiting to ride these two rides in the evening when the hype has died down, unless you want to take the single rider path for Smuggler's Run. Then you can hit that one up earlier if you'd like. If you're skipping the first showing of Fantasmic, this is a good time to get in line for Rise of the Resistance. But get in line for the ride before the show starts when people are starting to be let into the theater, 30 minutes before. After all, you're not going to want to miss the second showing of Fantasmic, and the gap between both shows is usually only an hour and a half. If you don't care about seeing either show, or if you're planning on visiting Hollywood Studios multiple times during your trip, the second Fantasmic showing is also a good time to try to get in line for Runaway Railway. But keep in mind that Rise of the Resistance and Runaway Railway are notorious for breakdowns since the trackless technology tends to be sensitive. So you do run the risk of missing out on these rides by putting them off until the last minute. So if that's a fear of yours, let's backtrack to the very beginning of this itinerary and swap Slinky Dog and Rise of the Resistance around. If a breakdown for Rise happens earlier in the day, you'll still have other times later on to try again. Yep, a good chunk of these guests do prioritize Rise of the Resistance first thing in the morning, but don't be intimidated by the crowds. They'll still be shorter than they will be later in the afternoon. Now, one extra thing to keep in mind, Slinky Dog Dash is all outside, so if you are visiting during the rainy season, that attraction might shut down in the afternoon if there's a storm coming through, so be aware of that too. Now, don't worry, if you don't want to try to tackle all of these steps and you'd rather just pay a little bit of money to get on these rides more easily, we will be talking about Genie Plus real soon. Next on our list of how to do the impossible, getting a reservation for Savi's Workshop. A visit inside Savi's Workshop is reserved exclusively for guests who participate in the 20-minute Build Your Own Lightsaber experience. You're going to need to save for Savi's since it does cost $249.99 plus tax. But hold on for just a second, I'll tell you about a few cheaper lightsaber options after this. Despite the price, Savi's Workshop is a super popular experience, so you will need to make reservations for it ahead of time. Much like an advanced dining reservation, you can make advanced reservations for Savi's Workshop 60 days out. These can be made on the Disney World website. Now, this experience is very limited, capped off to only 14 builders per time slot, so it's a good idea to book earlier rather than later. The good news is that Savi's has multiple time slots available throughout the day, so if you're not finding any availability in the morning, you may have better luck finding an opening in the afternoon or evening. If you really want to guarantee your spot at Savi's, you can always book your reservation right when the time slots go live at 5:30 or 5:45, 60 days before your visit. But my advice, if you have a dining reservation you're also really wanting to get for your trip, prioritize the dining reservation first. Dining tends to book up faster than Savi's workshop, so get those tables ASAP. Which ones? You're not going to have to skip ahead just yet. I'll let you know our favorite places to dine later on. Just don't plan on trying to get a reservation for Savi's the day of your visit, because more than likely you're going to be out of luck. Now, when you do make your reservation for Savi's, a credit card is required to hold your spot. If for some reason you can't make it to your reservation, it's going to be bad news bears. You'll be charged basically for the whole amount and have no saber to show for it. If you do need to make a cancellation, do it at least one day prior to your reservation. That way you won't be forced to pay the full price minus the saber. Otherwise, make sure you show up to your reservation about 20 minutes before your time slot. When you do arrive for your reservation, you'll pay for your lightsaber at check-in. But some of you out there may be going, over $200 for a lightsaber? Thanks, but no thanks. And I get that. That's a lot of money to drop for something that may just wind up collecting dust in the back of your closet. So if your kids are bound and determined to create a saber while they're in Hollywood Studios, you may want to go the cheaper route and build one at the Build Your Own Lightsaber station in Tatooine Traders. Tatooine Traders is located at the exit of the Star Tours ride, so you'll find it outside Galaxy's Edge, which is why it's such a hidden gem. Here, you'll still be able to customize your lightsaber hilt, choose your saber color, and pay a much lower price, around $30 to $45, instead of $200 plus. Granted, the experience isn't as epic as what you're going to find at Savi's workshop, and the saber isn't nearly as professional looking, but if you're looking for a more cost-efficient solution that'll make your kids happy, then you owe Tatooine Traders a big fat thank you. If you miss your window of opportunity to get a reservation for Savi's, another fun alternative is the Galaxy's Edge Droid Depot. Droid Depot is an industrial workshop with a collection of droid parts where you can select parts to customize your very own droid friend. You can also make reservations for this experience on the Disney World website. However, if you aren't looking to do this Robo Build-A-Bear activity and you just want to pick up a droid friend from a selection of pre-assembled droids, there are options for you as well. No reservations required. Droids cost $119.99 plus tax, which includes a remote and carrying case. In case you were wondering, my droid is named Fred. Okay, one last saber tip. Let's say you miss getting your Savi's reservation time and you still want a professional lightsaber to take home for all your future cosplay plans. You can find high-quality replicas of the lightsabers that belong to famous Jedi or Sith at Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. Keystone Clothiers also often has these legacy lightsabers on sale too, which is located off Hollywood Boulevard. These sabers range in price between $150 and $160, depending on what style you choose. And how do you get the best seats for Fantasmic? This is our next How to Do the Impossible. I mentioned earlier that Fantasmic takes place in a humongous amphitheater, but that doesn't mean every seat in that theater is the best seat. If you really want the best seat in the house, you're going to want to aim for the dead center, the center of the bleachers and the center of the theater. It might seem like a good idea to sit as close to the front as possible, but the view really isn't as good when you're closer up. Think of it like a movie theater. The closer you get to the screen, the more of the show you're really missing out on, visually speaking. Not to mention, those front row seats are super susceptible to the hydro and pyrotechnics going on. So when the water sprays, you're going to feel the mist, and when the flames blast, you're going to feel the heat. It's a good idea to get in line for Fantasmic around 15 to 20 minutes before the show starts, so you don't end up with the leftover seats by showing up at the last minute. But if you want to guarantee a seat over in that center section, you can always invest in a Fantasmic dining package ahead of time. Those who purchase a Fantasmic dining package get a voucher for guaranteed seating in a reserved area for Fantasmic, as well as an entree, non-alcoholic beverage, and an appetizer or dessert at select full-service restaurants, or one buffet, depending on which restaurant you choose. Here are the current Fantasmic dining package restaurants and prices according to the Disney World website. You'll pick up your seating voucher for the show at the time of your meal. Okay, one last random piece of Fantasmic advice from yours truly. Those bleacher seats, they're not comfortable. It's just a hard, cold metal seat. Nothing fancy. It's like going to your kid's baseball game. So if you or someone in your group needs a little extra cushion for your tailbone, consider packing a blanket or a pillow to sit on before and during the show. Next up, we've got some secrets you need to know about Hollywood Studios. Now that you know how to do the impossible, it's time to fill you in on the low-key park experiences that'll make your trip way more exciting than it already is. First, you can become a bounty hunter. That's right. One of the new features of Magic Band Plus is a game called Batuu Bounty Hunters in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Vibrations and lights will guide you down the right path to find your bounty, and when you arrive at the specific location, you can use the Play Disney Parks app's augmented reality thermal viewer to reveal who's hiding in the shadows. In order to play the game, you'll have to have Magic Band Plus because the standard Magic Band doesn't have the same technological functions. You'll also need to have the most recent version of the Play Disney Parks app downloaded on your phone. Once you have those things, you are good to go. The instructions for the game are located inside the Play Disney Parks app and also posted around Galaxy's Edge. If you don't want to invest in a new Magic Band Plus, there are still ways for you to interact with different features around Galaxy's Edge with just your Play Disney Parks app. On the free app, you can access the Star Wars Datapad. The Datapad has 4 key functions for you to explore: hack, scan, translate, and tune. The hack function will help you interact with droids and hack into various devices and control panels around Black Spire Outpost. You can even hack the Millennium Falcon. The translate function allows you to translate written Arabesh, if you haven't memorized the language already, that is. The scan function allows you to scan objects within the spaceport to find hidden items when you investigate, say a shipping container or a shipping crate. You may even locate special cargo and various digital goods. And the tune function will allow you to listen in on satellite transmissions and hear stories of the residents of the village, and maybe even learn a secret or two. Now, how about following a secret ride plotline? Don't let the hijinks of Mickey and Minnie Mouse completely distract you from the subplot of the trackless 2.5D dark ride Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. In the main plot, which is established during the pre-show before you get on the ride, Mickey and Minnie drive over a set of bumpy railroad tracks in their sporty red roadster. This makes poor Pluto, who's stuck in the back of the trunk, as well as the picnic basket and fresh-baked pie, go airborne. This pie lands in the smokestack of Goofy's train, of course, and hilarious chaos ensues, resulting in the screen in front of you. Well, I won't give any spoilers. But that's not the end of Pluto's storyline. If you keep your eyes peeled, you'll see Pluto trying to catch up to your train. And wouldn't you know, he's carrying the picnic basket. After all, he's Mickey's best pal, and he knows his pal can't have a perfect picnic without all that yummy food. So moral of the story, Pluto's the real MVP of this ride. And you can't tell me otherwise. But definitely keep an eye out to find Pluto in every single room. And you can follow the second secret ride plot line. Oh, wait, what? There's another secret ride plot in Hollywood Studios? Oh yeah, Hollywood Studios is all about their ride Easter eggs after all, and this next Easter egg is over at Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. While the flight on the Millennium Falcon usually has Hondo Inaka's voice guiding you to coaxium canisters, you can skip Hondo altogether and get Chewie to yell at you and your crew as you fly through the galaxy instead, but it's kinda hard to do. In order to summon this fan-favorite Wookiee, you must have exactly 6 crew members who are ready to work with you to pull this off. Before the ride starts, do not activate your position right away. It's a trap. Instead, make sure the left and right pilots push their controls to the far left or far right and far up or down. And once the pilots have done that, then they can push their activation button. Behind the pilots, the engineers and gunners need to hit one of the white buttons on their console before hitting the orange activation button. If you do all these steps successfully, then after the cast members give you the clear to launch, you get to listen to Chewie yell for the span of Smuggler's Run. And if you want to know how to take on the best Smuggler's Run role, we've got some hacks for you. Since we're already talking about this ride, let's talk a little bit more about those 3 different roles you could potentially be assigned. The 2 pilots will guide the course of the Millennium Falcon. The pilot seated on the left steers the control to move left and right, and the pilot seated on the right steers down and up. The 2 gunners will fire the blasters and missiles upon receiving the signal. The signal is a system of blinking lights alerting the gunners of exactly what, when, and where to push to execute the mission. And the 2 engineers will take care of any urgent systems repair needs that may arise. Engineers are also alerted by way of a system of lights to know what, when, and where to successfully fix the Falcon. For the most part, the pilot position is the most coveted of the 3 because driving that hunk of junk through the galaxy is a dream come true for many. However, the pilots really do determine how successful you're going to be on a mission. Younger kids or folks who aren't overly familiar with video game mechanics could end up making this a very bumpy ride. Not to mention, the pressure can be stressful for those younger members of your party, so they may enjoy being a gunner or engineer better than taking on the piloting responsibility. Now, you may disagree, but I personally enjoy the engineer role better than the gunner, but By sitting in the back as an engineer, you get to see the entire ride with a clear view of the other riders in your party and the jam-packed action and hyperspeed going on outside. But it's also the more easygoing role. While gunners are constantly button mashing to take down outside enemies, and pilots are constantly on top of things to make sure the ship doesn't plummet to the ground or scrape up against a wall, engineers have a few roles they'll need to perform but can otherwise sit back and enjoy the chaos unfolding before them. So work it out with your group ahead of time to figure out who's going to get that coveted position of pilot. Now, want to rack up the points on Toy Story Midway Mania? Here's what you're going to need to do for this. Don't worry about accuracy. Sure, it's better to actually hit the targets you're aiming for, but focusing on accuracy is not going to impact your final score as much as just shooting like crazy. You can have a terrible accuracy percentage and still rack up more than 200 or 300,000 in total points, so don't stress about losing points when you shoot and go to town with that rapid fire action. Aim for the moving targets too. If you can hit a target that's flying through the air, being carried in by a cute character or vehicle, you'll score bigger points in one shot. Stationary targets will be worth 50 to 100 points, while moving ones are almost always worth 500 to 5,000. And save your energy for the end. Your arm is going to feel like it's just had a major workout by the end of this ride, so don't waste your momentum in that practice scene at the beginning. Instead, make sure you got plenty of oomph left over to rapid fire at some runway mine carts and the last chance target during the ride's grand finale. And another secret, maybe you need to go to an underrated nighttime spectacular. I know we've gone on and on about how Fantasmic is great, but there is another nighttime spectacular in Hollywood studios that deserves some praise that a lot of people don't even know about. The Wonderful World of Animation is a 9-minute projection show that takes place on most nights on the Grauman's Chinese Theater. During the show, you get to ooh and ah over classic and new scenes from Disney's hit films and animation. Honestly, it's the perfect show for 2023, since this is the year we're going to celebrate the Walt Disney Company's 100th anniversary. When it comes to getting a good view for this one, just try to keep yourself centered. You're not going to need to fight off massive crowds like you will over in Magic Kingdom because they're all at Fantasmic. So it's totally cool if you want to show up a few minutes before the show begins and find yourself a spot at the last minute. Now let's track down some spooky Easter eggs. We're not done with this hidden ride secret situation yet. Tower of Terror is chock full of them too. Here's a few fun ones for you to search out next time you're about to get lost in the Twilight Zone. Easter egg 1, check out the mail slots near the check-in area of the queue. The letters in the slots are actual notes from cast members. New cast members get a chance to read notes left behind by previous cast members of the attraction. Then they have a chance to leave their own notes to be read by the next group. Easter egg 2, the color scheme and Moroccan feel of the building were designed to seamlessly blend in with Epcot's Morocco Pavilion, from which the structure is visible. Next time you're in the Norway Pavilion at Epcot, look across to Morocco. You're going to spot Tower of Terror in the distance. Easter egg 3, as you board the elevator, take a quick look on your right-hand side. You'll notice an inspection certificate that's dated the night of the incident with a state ID number as 10/2/59. What's the number's significance? That's the very day the first episode of The Twilight Zone aired on TV. These are only a few of the many hidden secrets lurking around this haunted hotel. There are so many specific nods to certain Twilight Zone episodes that you're going to find on the walls and in the details and even in the letterboard. How many will you be able to find, or do you have a specific favorite secret already? Let us know in the comments. All right, we've come to the Lightning Lane territory. It is time to talk about Genie Plus. Want a brief Genie Plus recap? Of course you do. I promise I will keep it very brief. Disney Genie Plus is a premium planning tool which gives guests Lightning Lane access to bypass the main queues of rides and attractions in exchange for much shorter lines. See, kept it brief. All rides in Hollywood studios can be found on Genie Plus except for Rise of the Resistance. For that one, you're going to have to pay an individual Lightning Lane, which will cost you a fluctuating price, usually ranging between $15 and $25 per person per ride-through. Genie Plus prices also fluctuate in price between $15 and $29, depending on the season, per person per day. Now, if you've been following this Ultimate Guide series so far, then you know how I feel about purchasing Lightning Lanes for Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Spoiler alert, it's usually not worth the extra expense. But that's not how I feel about Genie Plus for a Hollywood Studios day. Like we talked about earlier, Hollywood Studios rides all tend to be heavy hitters, one after the other, which means you're going to be running into lines all day long, and a lot of them are outdoors, and that's awful. And you can absolutely use those strategies I talked about before to help cut down on wait times. Those are going to help tremendously. But if the schedule I gave you isn't going to mesh with your itinerary, or you just don't want to stress over having to wait 60 minutes for any ride whatsoever, then Genie Plus could prove to be a worthy investment. Just keep in mind that you will be paying the same price range for Genie Plus for less at the starting half of this year, since Rock and Roller Coaster will be down for extended maintenance. Now, purchasing a Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance can also be worth it if you don't want to stress over the wait times for this one. If you're just paying for an individual Lightning Lane for yourself, this premium feature may be more worth spending your hard-earned money on rather than, say, another Disney shirt or a couple of collector pins. But if you need to purchase an individual Lightning Lane for your whole group, that cost for a single ride can add up fast. For a family of 4, Rise of the Resistance's Lightning Lanes for one ride through can add up to between $60 and $100. You could feed your whole family a quick service meal and then some for those prices. So you really need to sit down with your group and discuss whether an expense like this is going to be necessary, or if you think you'll be able to navigate the wait times all right without Genie Plus help. If you do decide to take the Lightning Lane route, here are some important tips to keep in mind. Book your most anticipated ride first. After you purchase your Disney Genie Plus, which you'll be able to do starting at midnight the day of your visit, you'll be able to select return times for one ride at a time with a 1-hour arrival window starting at 7 a.m. if you're staying in a Disney World hotel, that is. Otherwise, you'll be able to book your first Lightning Lane once the park opens. If you're staying at a Disney World resort, you can also book an individual Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance starting at 7 a.m. since it won't be listed on the regular Genie Plus lineup of options. Otherwise, you'll be able to book a Lightning Lane for this popular ride once the park opens. But here's the cold, hard truth of that. It's highly unlikely you're going to be able to book an individual Lightning Lane for Rise of the Resistance unless you're staying at a Disney World resort and have access to that 7 a.m. drop time. Recently, we decided to do a little experiment to see just how quickly the Rise of the Resistance individual Lightning Lanes book up each day after 7 a.m. By 7:19, all the morning return time windows had already been snatched up, leaving guests with options for 1 p.m. and later. And by 7:26, all the return times were gone. Totally gone, within 26 minutes of their official release. There were no more Rise of the Resistance paid Lightning Lanes whatsoever. So if you really want an individual Lightning Lane for Rise, you're gonna need to stay on Disney property and plan to wake up before 7 a.m. That way you've got a better chance of picking the return time that works best for your day. Okay, back to the Genie Plus talk. Usually I can pinpoint which rides to book first, but in the case of Hollywood Studios, pretty much every ride on that Lightning Lane list is a popular one, aside from poor old Star Tours and Alien Swirling Saucers. So it really depends on what you want to prioritize. If your group is more into thrills, consider snagging Lightning Lanes for Smuggler's Run, Rock and Roller Coaster, and Tower of Terror first. But if you'd rather focus on more easygoing experiences to accommodate those in your group who don't really want to be dropped 13 stories faster than the speed of gravity, you may prefer to prioritize Lightning Lanes for rides like Slinky Dog Dash, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and Toy Story Mania instead. Aim to visit during downtimes for potentially cheaper prices too. Around the holidays, we saw Genie Plus continually jump up in price to $29 per person per day, and that's a lot of cash. Let's say you decide to get Genie Plus and an individual Lightning Lane for your family of 4 during those peak price times. That means you could be looking at tacking on an extra $216 on top of what you're already paying for everything else. Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane prices tend to drop after the holidays and during Disney's slower months like August and September. But here's the catch. Slower seasons equal lower crowd levels, so it could be very possible that you'll put down money for Genie Plus and not necessarily need it. We call that a catch-22. Another way you may be able to potentially save when it comes to surge pricing for Genie Plus is by planning your park visit in the middle of the week rather than on a weekend, which is when crowds tend to pick up and when locals and kids are in the parks. Does this mean prices always drop down on the weekdays? No, but you can kind of determine ahead of time what surge prices are going to look like by checking out the Disney World park ticket calendar online. Here you're going to be able to track park ticket prices for the entire year, and when the park ticket prices dip down, there's a very good chance Genie Plus prices will dip down on those days too. Next big Genie Plus tip is to use the 120-minute window. One of the most important and potentially confusing rules with Genie Plus is the 120-minute rule. This rule has to do with when you can make your Genie Plus Lightning Lane selections. Once you've purchased Genie Plus, you can make more selections throughout the day. But again, each person in your group can only make make these selections one at a time. Once you've made a selection, you can make your next Lightning Lane reservation when you've used the first one, or if you modify your current Genie Plus selection to something new. But you can also use the third option, the 120-minute rule, which essentially means you can book another Lightning Lane 2 hours after reserving a previous one if the return time for the first Lightning Lane is more than 2 hours away. I know, Disney Genie Plus and all the Lightning Lane mumbo jumbo can be a lot to process at once, but we do have an ultimate guide video for all things Genie Plus too, if that will help. Just keep in mind that Genie Plus frequently changes, and we capture all those updates on DisneyFoodBlog.com. Now, this next part is one of my favorite parts of every Ultimate Guide video. It's where to go chill out when your anxiety is peaking. All right, Hollywood Studios can be a ton of fun, but what's not fun is constantly being squished up against other guests. Not just in ride queues, but at quick service locations and shows, and even in bottlenecked pathways around the park. It's probably the park I get crowd burnout at the fastest. So if you need to track down a moment of respite, here are the areas that'll provide the R&R sanctuary you need. First, it's Echo Lake. While Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge tend to be rather hip-happening places, Echo Lake usually stays much less busy. This is also where you're going to find the Mickey Shorts Theater, which is usually a short wait to get in and lets you watch a cute little Mickey film called Vacation Fun, exclusive to Hollywood Studios. But the best part of this theater is after the show, where you can take photos and life-size backdrops featuring scenes from the most popular New Age Mickey shorts, including the one, the only Potato Land. Next up, Muppets Courtyard. Another quiet gem tends to be this location, where very few crowds seem to gather on an average day. In fact, if you head back toward Mama Melrose's, you'll typically find even fewer people over yonder. There are a few benches for seating in this area, which can also be nice and shaded depending on the time of day. Another favorite low-key spot is the Walt Disney Presents walkthrough exhibit. Walt Disney Presents is home to one-of-a-kind photos and models and sketches and costumes, documenting Walt Disney's journey from birth to Disney World. They even have his whole office mocked up. It's very cool. And it's not only an interesting gallery for fans of Disney history, but it also tends to be quiet and not super crowded. Oh, and did we mention it's also air conditioned? Because we sure do love ourselves some AC. At the end of the gallery, you can typically catch a 15-minute screening of Walt Disney One Man's Dream, a short documentary all about Walt Disney himself, or you might be able to catch upcoming Disney film trailers or sneak peeks that occasionally screen there too. Now, I almost don't want to talk about this next one because it's a secret I use all the time, but I like you guys, so I'm spilling the beans. At the exit of Tower of Terror, right by Tower Hotel Gifts, is a little pocket of peace where you can separate yourself from the crowds down Sunset Boulevard. This is also where you're going to find one of my favorite Joffrey's Coffee kiosks because it's way less busy than the one you're going to find outside Toy Story Land. And if Trolley Car Cafe, the Starbucks location, has lines out the door, this is an easy place to just come and grab a coffee. All right, now, while Rock and Roller Coaster is down for the count here at the beginning of the year, I don't expect to see a whole lot of folks hovering around that area, which might make it a great place to pop a squat and munch on something for a quick afternoon snack. Close by, there's also a huge courtyard area near Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy show, which should be fairly deserted when Rock and Roller Coaster is undergoing renovations too. So take advantage of this downtime, even if it makes you a little bit sad inside. And the final one is my favorite. We're going to talk about Star Wars Launch Bay. It doesn't look like much, but it's one of the best hidden spots to escape in Hollywood Studios. Nobody knows it's there. The self-guided museum is tucked away in the animation courtyard and is open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Inside, you're going to find plenty of air conditioning and Star Wars memorabilia, costumes, models, and props. It tends to be a very low-key and quiet place to rest, and nobody's going to get mad at you for hanging around in there. Even with characters now meeting guests inside, there are still plenty of places to walk around or sit down and take a breather. There's also an open-air courtyard if you prefer some fresh air. Are you ready for the best eats and drinks in Hollywood Studios? Because I am. We've talked about so much already, you must be starving by now. Good thing we know a few places that'll help curb your hunger and leave you happy and satisfied inside Hollywood Studios. If you're looking for food on the go, we're going to start at Backlot Express. This is themed as a production warehouse, so expect to see this place packed with unique props and paints and blueprints. This quick service location in Echo Lake offers classic counter service entrees like burgers, sandwiches, and salads. But there are also a couple of unique selections to choose from too, like the teriyaki tofu bowl and the Cuban sandwich. And even though most Star Wars food items are found in Galaxy's Edge these days, you'll often spot a fun Star Wars themed treat or two up for grabs, like our very favorite Wookiee cookie dessert. And Andy from Toy Story has taken his very own lunchbox and thermos to build a walk-up window that serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner to all of us toys visiting Toy Story Land. Fun twists on American dishes are served here, like tachos, which are tater tot nachos, and lunchbox tarts, which are basically fancy Pop-Tarts with seasonal flavors. Quick note though, Woody's Lunchbox, along with most of the quick service offerings on this list, has mobile order available on the My Disney Experience app. That way you can pre-order and prepay for your food without waiting in line to do so. Woody's Lunchbox is all outdoors with all outdoor seating. That's a good thing to note as well. ABC Commissary is themed as a simple commissary for a production studio. It's got a quick service menu featuring a few twists with an international flair, like shrimp or pork carnitas tacos and curry shrimp rice bowls. The dining room has a generous amount of air-conditioned seating. It's really boring, but it is air-conditioned to accommodate those large crowds. And we used to just totally bypass ABC Commissary, but their recent menu revamp has really brought it back into the fold. All right, time for Pizza Rizzo. At least it made it into this video, y'all. Now don't come at me. I know I give this restaurant a hard time almost always, but I have reason to add it here. Pizza Rizzo serves up pizza in a counter service restaurant owned and operated by none other than the Muppet Rizzo the Rat. Unique touches to the location include a cheesy banquet room decorated to host a wedding reception, as well as a special booth that Rizzo keeps for his celebrity VIP Muppet pals. Here's the thing, the pizza here is mediocre at best. It is puffy, it is greasy, it's nothing to write home about. But we do have to give it props for its super cute theming, because I'll always support the Muppets with all my heart and soul, and this gets the kids fed at a semi-decent price point. So what more can you ask for? I know you can ask for a lot more, and don't worry, we got you. Heading over to Ronto Roasters next, this specializes in the Ronto Wrap, which is an oh-so-popular handheld snack featuring spiced grilled sausage and roasted pork. Think of it like an intergalactic version of a hot dog. And you're going to find this place in the Galaxy's Edge Marketplace. Though the main Ronto Wrap option is made with grilled sausage, Ronto Roasters also serve some satisfying plant-based choices, like the Zucchini Wrap made with grilled zucchini, smoky chickpea onion slaw, creamy garlic tahini sauce, and fresh cilantro, all wrapped up in warm pita bread. Look for additional snacks and intergalactic beverages to fuel your Batuan adventures for breakfast. The morning wrap is an especially popular option. It's my favorite version of the Ronto Wrap. And there's lunch and an early dinner too. Now I say early because Ronto Roasters does normally close around 3 p.m. daily, but stay tuned. We're heading to Docking Bay 7 next. Proprietor Chef Strano Cookie Tuggs runs the Docking Bay 7 kitchen in Galaxy's Edge, having honed his skills in the kitchen of Maz Kanata, as the story goes. The menu of this restaurant includes regional delicacies like fried Andorian chicken tip yip, the roasted Andorian chicken salad, and smoked Kadu ribs. Don't worry, these foods are more normal than they may sound, but they definitely sound and look unique. Fun fact though, after Ronto Roasters closes for the day, you'll still be able to track down Ronto Wraps here, but only after 3 p.m. rolls around. And you can enjoy a hearty meal in the style of a California outdoor market while you hear the distant screams of guests on Tower of Terror, which, by the way, are not real screams. They actually pipe out the screams of Tower of Terror. They're kind of fake. But we're gonna have to save that for our Hollywood Studios Secrets video. The menu here currently features an assortment of savory waffle bowls, including plant-based options. This is currently our favorite quick service spot in the Sunset Ranch Market area, lining the Sunset Boulevard Strip. So if you have to choose one of the quick service restaurants in this general vicinity, choose this one over the others, especially if you love creamy mashed potatoes, which we do. Note that seating here also is open air, and while there are a few shaded spots, those spots provide limited protection from inclement weather. Major Debbie Downer right here. Now the Trolley Car Cafe, that's home to Starbucks in Disney's Hollywood Studios, featuring the same full specialty drink menu you're going to find at your Starbucks back home. There are also a handful of unique to Disney and unique to Hollywood Studios pastries and goodies here too, but lines can get rather long for this stop early in the day since many folks are going to swing by here first thing in the morning. I don't know why. Why do you stand in line for coffee when you could be standing in line for a good ride? I don't know. Personally, I'd keep walking and hit up that Joffrey's behind the Tower of Terror instead for a much shorter line, especially since Trolley Car Cafe doesn't have the option to mobile order. But if there's a drink or treat you really wanting to order here, wait and come back later in the day when the Hollywood Boulevard crowds have died down. One of my favorite things to get is that Butterfinger cupcake, which now they call it like a toffee butter crunch. I don't even know what they call it anymore, but it's the Butterfinger cupcake. And of course, that carrot cake cookie is here too. Next up is Dockside Diner. Now, we don't recommend this one all the time, but I do want you to know about it. Dockside Diner is open during lunch and dinner in the Echo Lake area of Disney's Hollywood Studios. There are plenty of tables right up front with lots of umbrellas to keep guests semi-comfortable, but alas, no indoor seating again. Though the menu has seen its share of changes, you'll often spot items here like footlong hot dogs and milkshakes. But the real reason we don't always recommend this one is because of its spotty hours. Dockside Diner is sometimes closed or running limited hours on days when fewer crowds are anticipated, so don't put all your eggs in this basket. Now, if you're looking for a sit-down meal, let's talk Hollywood Brown Derby and Lounge. The Hollywood Brown Derby restaurant is one of those historic dining experiences at Disney World that we go back to over and over and over and over again. The signature restaurant is a replica of the famous Vine Street Brown Derby, originally built in 1928 and home to dozens of famous Hollywood rumors and stories and recipes. Here you can order options like the duck à l'orange, the free-range chicken coq au vin, the tomato risotto, so good, and of course the famous Cobb salad made tableside. You'll want to make your reservations for this one as soon as you can, but if you miss your window of opportunity, you've always got the attached Hollywood Brown Derby Lounge you can turn to as an alternative option, which is first come, first served, but does give guests the chance to sample some of the food featured at the main restaurant, including the famous Cobb salad, along with other small plates and a full list of cocktails. Note that the lounge is outdoor seating though. There are umbrellas, but if it's a hurricane, you don't want to sit out there. Now, next up is a brand new one. Remember how we mentioned the new barbecue joint earlier, Roundup Rodeo Barbecue? Well, here's your reminder that it will surely be opening in Toy Story Land this spring, despite how many times they've told us this is going to open and it didn't. We did get to see a sneak peek video of this restaurant, so if you want to check it out too and see what all the fuss is about, I'll go ahead and link to our post for that video down in the description below. And Hollywood and Vine. This is the sole character dining restaurant in Hollywood Studios, and depending on what time of day you visit or even what time of year you visit, that'll determine what your character dining experience will be like. Ooh, I know, interesting. During breakfast, you can chow down on options like Bananas Foster French Toast, Eggs Benedict, seasonal bread pudding, as you meet Disney Junior characters like Fancy Nancy and Vampirina, Doc McStuffins, and Roadster Goofy. Lunch and dinner, though, take a different approach to character dining. Instead of Disney Junior characters, these meals feature Minnie's Seasonal Dine, where Minnie Mouse and the Fab Five host various dinner parties for you, her lovely guests. Minnie's often joined by Mickey, Goofy, and Pluto, though other characters can pop up every now and then. The theme of Minnie's Seasonal Dine changes throughout the year, with a tribute to the silver screen kicking things off starting January 6th. Next, Minnie hosts the Springtime Dine, which typically runs March through May. Then you've got a beach party scene for the Summertime Dine, which typically runs June through mid-August. And then you got Halloween Dine, which is mid-August to early November. Last but not least, of course, you've got the holiday season's Holiday Dine, which usually runs from the beginning of November to early January, around January 5th. As far as food is concerned, expect buffet options like roasted mushroom farro risotto, beef stew with root vegetables, herb-crusted tenderloin steak, slow-roasted pork belly with guava glaze, or something even more accessible like corn dog nuggets. Next on our list is Mama Melrose. This is Mama Melrose's Ristorante Italiano on Grand Avenue. Serves Italian dishes with California charm. To be real with you, this restaurant can be inconsistent. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it leaves much to be desired. When it's good, it's really good, but when it's not, it's basically an Italian Applebee's. Some of our favorite dishes in the past have been things like chicken alla parmigiana, charred strip steak, Mama's tiramisu, and here's a fun one, a spaghetti and meatball cupcake for the kids. And don't forget to eat all your veggies and keep your elbows off the table, because at 50's Primetime Cafe, you're back in Mom's kitchen being served by your cousin, uncle, or some other family member. Wherever you're seated, you're within eyeshot of an old black and white TV set showing mid-century TV favorites. But be careful here, if you aren't on your very best behavior and you leave your veggies on your plate, you might find yourself with your nose in the corner. The servers here dole out some hilarious punishments if you're being impolite at the table. No worries though, it's all in good fun, and if you'd rather not partake in this 50s era family roleplay, just let your server know. The menu here is made up of comfort classics, including fried chicken, pot roast, and a fried herb and garlic cheese, which is one of my favorites. And you can't miss the peanut butter and jelly milkshake. At the end of Commissary Lane, nestled in an unassuming soundstage-like building, you'll find one of the most unique restaurants on Disney World property, Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater. After being seated in your convertible car, a car hop cast member will take your order while you watch classic clips from silly 1950s horror flicks, cartoons, and newsreels up on the big screen. The food here isn't blow your mind amazing or anything, but it's not bad either. The menu tends to highlight its burgers and milkshakes, but you can also order other fried apps, salads, pastas, and sandwiches here too. There's always ribs as well. Now, if you've had a long day in Hollywood Studios, it might be time for a drink, and here's where you're gonna get the best ones. We're gonna start at Tune In Lounge. This is a super friendly lounge. It's a well-kept secret tucked between two restaurants, 50s Primetime Cafe and Hollywood and Vine on Echo Lake. In the past, you used to be able to order off the 50s Primetime menu here without worrying about making an advanced dining reservation to do so. But that option hasn't really returned since the park closures of 2020, but it might be there when you are, so you can always ask. But you can still order a specialty cocktail, wine, beer, or a specialty seasonal drink while taking it easy on one of the couches. This is another place I like to escape to when the crowds are a little too thick, especially since this place is typically open all day long from 11 a.m. to park close. But those couches, yeah, that's where a lot of the people waiting to go to 50s Primetime Cafe are sitting, so you may want to stick to the bar. Now, Baseline Tap House is the spot in Hollywood Studios to grab a beer or create your own flight and take in the scene of Grand Avenue. Along with serving California beer and wine, Baseline has a few small bites on the menu too, like the Bavarian pretzel with beer cheese fondue and spicy mustard, and the California cheese and charcuterie plate. There's only a smidgen of indoor seating, but you're more than likely going to end up sitting outside or standing outside, which is okay, except when the crowds around this area tend to be a little much, then the experience can wind up being more overwhelming and less relaxing. That's usually my experience here, but everyone else on the team loves this place, so I might be missing something. Baseline tends to be less busy toward the end of the night and way too busy around lunchtime. Now, heading back to Galaxy's Edge, Oga's Cantina is a spaceport bar found in Batuu. Here you can become part of the Batuuan culture as you sip on a pre-made bubbling brew and listen to beats provided by the famous or infamous robot DJ Rex. Oga's Cantina is well known for its concoctions, available with choices for kids and adults both, that feature exotic ingredients using otherworldly methods served in unique vessels. That's a quote-unquote. Themed cocktails like the Dagobah Slug Slinger, I don't like that one, the Fuzzy Tauntaun, love that one, and Jet Juice, that one's real strong, are fun to order. But there's also non-alcoholic specialty drinks too, like the cookie-topped Blue Bantha. Unlike most lounges on property, Oga's does take advanced dining reservations. Every now and then you can find one at the last minute by checking the dining tips board on your My Disney Experience app, but more often than not, you're definitely going to want to book ahead of time for this one, since it's a pretty popular place. When you do make a reservation, your time at Oga's will only be for 45 minutes, which you may think isn't enough time, but it is. This place is constantly packed out. You'll totally be ready to have your personal bubble returned to you by the end of your time here. And okay, so technically Katsaka's Kettle is a popcorn stand in Galaxy's Edge, well known for their sweet, spicy, and savory outpost mix and their buttered blue grains, which for us Earth dwellers is basically blue-colored buttered popcorn. But that's not what I come here for. I come here for one particular drink, and that's the Cold Brew Black Calf. This drink is made with Joffrey's Cold Brew, topped with sweet cream cheese and chocolate puffs. I know it sounds wild, right? You can also get this drink spiked with Godiva chocolate liqueur, but if you do that, make sure to mix it all up, because the chocolate liqueur makes the drink a little sweeter, and the more you mix it, the more of that liqueur you're gonna taste. And yes, there is a place in Hollywood Studios that serves strictly milk. But it's not the kind of milk you're going to get from a cow. It is space milk. The milks served at the milk stand in Galaxy's Edge were made famous by Luke Skywalker, who drank the original blue milk in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, and green milk in Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. The milk stand serves both blue and green as frozen beverages made with non-dairy rice and coconut milks. Of-age guests may also opt to order blue milk with rum or green milk with tequila. Are these milks any good? the reviews are split. But if you think you'd like to try a fruity tasting, perfumey, frozen coconut milk, if only for novelty's sake, then it may be worth trying at least once. But some people love this stuff, not gonna lie. Are you ready for some pro tips? Pro tips, that's my jingle for this part of the video. I hope you liked it. Anyway, we can't let you go to Hollywood Studios yet. We haven't given you our very best DFB tips to help guide your way. I know you think we gave you lots of good tips already, right? We saved the best for last, so let's do that now. Check out the Hollywood Tower Hotel's Beacon of Magic. In honor of Disney World's 50th anniversary celebration, Disney brought the Beacons of Magic light projections to all 4 of the park icons. Now, the Beacons of Magic over in the other 3 parks tend to get a lot of the attention, and it's well deserved. But don't overlook what the Hollywood Tower Hotel offers up each night. I mean, just look at how magical and bright this is. Upon first glance, you'd never know this structure was trying to traumatize people every few minutes from the inside, right? If you look up toward the top of the hotel, you can even see shadows of people dancing the night away on the top floor. How did they escape the whole elevator situation? Now, this next one can be a huge deal if you're a Star Wars fan. You gotta know the fastest way to get to Rise of the Resistance. If you're looking for the shortest path possible to Galaxy's Edge so you can hit up Rise of the Resistance as soon as you enter through the front gates of the park, walk all the way down to Hollywood Boulevard, turn right at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and walk past the ABC Commissary. This route is faster, but here's the catch. It can also be a path that bottlenecks immensely, which may not be great for you if you struggle with intense crowds in one centralized location. If your goal is to avoid crowds as much as possible, then try turning left once you hit Echo Lake before the Chinese Theater. Walk past 50's Primetime Cafe and Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular and head on over to Galaxy's Edge from there. It's a longer path, sure, but you'll also be able to hear yourself think. Which path you end up taking all depends on what's most important to you, getting to Galaxy's Edge quickly or your sanity. Want to wear a Hollywood Studios shirt you're going to want to wear over and over and over again? Admit it, you'd love to wear a shirt in Hollywood Studios that everyone's going to be scouring the gift shops to find but never will. And that's because you'll be ordering your shirt from us. The DFB t-shirt store is full of looks inspired by our favorite Disney parks, including Hollywood. If you want to browse all the different shirt and sweatshirt options, head over to dfbstore.com after this and take a look. I think you'll be thrilled by what you find. Now, this next tip is a weird one, but I really wanted to share it because I think it's fun. Animal Kingdom might go all out for Earth Day during the month of April, but Hollywood Studios is all about celebrating May the 4th because May the 4th be with you. Get it? You've heard it. Okay, it's cute. May the 4th is officially Star Wars Day, and Galaxy's Edge loves to celebrate. On this day, there'll be special food, merchandise, photo ops, you name it. So know that park passes will probably book up pretty quickly for that day, and you'll need to secure your tickets way in advance. But the exclusive Star Wars holidays don't stop there. On November 17th, the citizens of Batuu also celebrate Life Day, which is a traditional Wookiee holiday honoring family, joy, and harmony, kind of like Christmas, but in space. Disneyland's version of Galaxy's Edge tends to do a little more when it comes to Life Day and offers limited time Life Day treats inside Oga's Cantina, but Disney World finds time to celebrate too with PhotoPass magic shots and exclusive Life Day merchandise, of course. Now, of course, we're going to talk rider swap too. Several rides in Hollywood Studios are just way too intense for younger members in your group or sometimes older members in your group. There were many years that I didn't ride Tower of Terror because I thought I was literally having a heart attack. And that's why the free rider swap feature can be a lifesaver. You can use rider swap to help everybody in your group ride all the thrill rides, even if you've got a smaller kiddo or someone like me that doesn't want to ride certain rides. Just ask a cast member at the front of the attraction about rider swap before you jump in line and they'll get you all set up. By the way, if you do have someone like me who doesn't want to ride but does want to walk the queue line with you, just a heads up that there's something called chicken exits at most of these thrill rides. You can walk the queue with your friends, and if you don't want to ride, just tell the cast member loading the cars that you want the chicken exit and they'll guide you right out. Oddly, the chicken exit for Tower of Terror is an elevator. Just gonna leave you with that. All right, now we've talked about everything else in Hollywood Studios, but we have not talked about the shows, right? When the lines become forever long for the rides during the peak of the afternoon, how do you bide your time? Well, it's by hitting up the shows. Hollywood Studios has tons of shows for you to choose from, aside from the nighttime spectaculars, so let's talk about what you can see during the day. For the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration. This is on Echo Lake, and you won't want to miss it if you have Anna and Elsa fans. It tells the story of the movie through song, and Disney even sprinkles in some hilarious jokes for the grown-ups. Afterward, check out the Olaf meet and greet next door. And I'd recommend getting in line for this one 10 to 15 minutes before the show starts. And when you do get in line, the initial crowding can be super worrisome, but fear not. This is a big theater, and there's not really a bad seat here. Though much like Fantasmic, your best seat's going to be right in the middle. And who's ready to dodge giant boulders, catch some death-defying stunts, and see what wild conundrums Marion and Indy have gotten themselves into this time? The Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular opened in what is now Disney's Hollywood Studios, it's MGM Studios back then, in 1989, and the show gives you a behind-the-scenes look at film stunts and action scenes inspired by Raiders of the Lost Ark. You get to sit back and watch a talented cast of stunt artists complete exciting and dangerous stunt work. They also explain how they do it, which adds even more to the performance. Again, this shaded outdoor theater is huge, but the middle portion fills up quickly. That being said, we've been able to find a last-minute seat over at the side bleachers on several occasions and felt like we still got a pretty good view of the show. Would I recommend that? No, but don't stress over getting in line for this one half an hour in advance or anything. Just know when the show times are by looking at your My Disney Experience app and plan your day accordingly. Also keep in mind that if bad weather hits, the show will either be cut short or canceled entirely for the safety of the actors. Next up, Muppet Vision 3D. Muppet Vision 3D is a quirky, self-aware, multi-sensory show starring Kermit, Miss Piggy, Bean, Fozzie, Sam the Eagle, Gonzo. Okay, I could list the entire cast, but there's a lot of Muppets to go through, so just know that yes, you will see tons and tons of Muppets, which should be enough of a selling point for anyone. If you sit in the front row, you're going to be straining your neck to see everything, so again, you want to be in the middle center. It's not all bad near the front, though. You still get a great view of one of the surprises later on in the show. Here's a hint. You might get to see a Muppet off screen walk past you. The worst seat in this theater, though, is going to be the ones on the sides, because you're going to find yourself straining to see any goings-on happening on the other side of the theater. Things are happening around every inch of this place, and not just on the big screen. The show is never wildly busy, but be warned, the pre-show room can get crowded and stuffy at times, and during busy times, there may be a longer line. Now, over in Animation Courtyard, you're going to find the Disney Junior Dance Party. This short show features multiple characters from Disney Junior series and encourages kids to bust a move and burn off some energy. Now, the setup for this show is a little different. You're going to come on inside the theater and sit on the floor, and that's because the kids in your group won't be sitting for long. This is definitely the most interactive show in the park. If sitting on the floor is kind of rough for you or someone else in your group, there are a few benches along the back wall. I'd recommend getting in line 15 to 20 minutes earlier for this one if you want a better chance of grabbing one of those bench seats. Now, it's really easy to overlook the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy in Hollywood Studios, but you'll find this show tucked away near Rock and Roller Coaster. During the show, you'll enter into the world of cars, where you'll join Lightning McQueen and prepare to join the next generation of rookie racers. The theater here doesn't provide as many seats as other theaters in the park, but this show also doesn't usually get as busy as the other shows either. Sometimes it's even just all out closed. Since the bench seats are pretty level here, I'd actually recommend sitting closer to the front this time, especially if you have younger members in your group who really want to see Lightning McQueen in action. It may also help to sit at the edge of one of the benches to help your kid peek around any potentially taller guests. For adults, however, any seat should still be able to provide a pretty clear view of the show. Just, if you're sitting in front of a little kid, just, scoot over. And Beauty and the Beast live on stage. It's a classic animated tale brought to life. We were so excited when this came back to the park after the closures in 2020. Beauty and the Beast live on stage retells the tale as old as time with Broadway quality costumes, sets, and talent. The show runs a few times throughout the day, which you can find on the My Disney Experience app and outside the theater located off Sunset Boulevard. Once again, we're back to the metal bleacher seats though. Hollywood Studios uses these to seat as many guests as possible in one go, so you don't have to overly stress about limited capacity and having to stand in line for hours to catch a performance. That being said, the outdoor theater still fills up, so you'll want to get in line maybe 15 to 20 minutes before the show starts. If you show up a little later and find that all the seats have been taken, you may be able to find some overflow seating outside, but it won't be nearly as good a view as those center bleacher seats will provide. And now for the cherry on top of this extensive list. ultimate guide. Let's cover some of the basics you're going to need to know before you book your trip and head to Hollywood Studios. Here's where you can meet characters in this park. There are several different opportunities to see your favorite characters around Hollywood Studios, aside from just the Hollywood and Vine Character Dine. You're going to find character sightings several times throughout the day around areas like Galaxy's Edge and Toy Story Land. You may even get to see Chip and Dale have a picnic on a patch of grass close to Hollywood Brown Derby if you're lucky. Specific meet and greet stations can be found around the park too. You can meet Disney stars, and Red Carpet Dreams usually hosts a very dapper looking Mickey and Minnie, though other visiting characters have made appearances here before too. You can meet Olaf at Celebrity Spotlight in Echo Lake and give him a warm hug. And sometimes you can meet Disney Junior characters in the animation courtyard, or Mike and Sully inside Walt Disney Presents building, or even BB-8, Chewie, and Darth Vader over at Star Wars Launch Bay. Just check your My Disney Experience app to see who's in the parks the day of your visit. Now, which modes of transportation do you want to take to get to Hollywood Studios? For the most part, if you're using Disney's complimentary transpo to get you around property, you're going to arrive to Hollywood Studios via bus. But if you're staying in a Skyliner resort like Disney's Pop Century, Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach, or Riviera, then you can get to Hollywood Studios via Skyliner. The Hollywood Studios station is the end of the Skyliner line, but when you board a gondola from the Hollywood Studios station, you'll be taken to the Caribbean Beach Resort station. From there, you can transfer to go to Art of Animation, Pop Century, or transfer to the Riviera Epcot line. Just keep in mind that although the Skyliner is typically faster than all other complimentary modes of Disney transportation, it can still have super long lines to get on first thing in the morning and at the end of the park day, so don't forget to plan ahead for that potential time suck. The Skyliner resorts aren't the only resorts close with easygoing transportation methods to Hollywood Studios. The Epcot area resorts, aka Disney's Boardwalk Inn, Disney's Yacht and Beach Club, even Walt Disney World's Swan and Dolphin and Swan Reserve, are all within walking distance to the park as well. Depending on where your room is located, you should expect a stroll to Hollywood Studios to be around 15 to 30 minutes. Or you can take the bus or a friendship boat, though the boats will have to make a few resort stops along the way, meaning it could be half an hour later before you actually make it to the park. And of course, you always have the option to go your own way and choose to drive to the park instead, but parking will be $25 a day if you're not already staying at a Disney World resort. Ride shares and minivans can also come and pick you up if you don't mind spending the cash. Hollywood Studios rideshare pickup spot can be found in the last row of the bus station. And when should you get park pass reservations? Immediately. I'm sorry, was that too straightforward? Hollywood Studios and Magic Kingdom are the two parks that book up the fastest, so if you know you're going to be visiting either during a rather busy time of year like spring break or Memorial Day weekend, you're going to want to get your park pass reservations months in advance just to be on the safe side. All right, we got through the ultimate guides for all of the parks. Do you feel like a pro yet? Because I think you're a pro. And I know this video was one of our most extensive, so don't forget to drop us your email at disneyfoodblog.com/DHS2023 for a complete list of everything we talked about here today. Why take notes when we've got you covered? Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.